Thanks everyone for tuning in and welcome back to Autobot Dawson Gaming. I am really honored to be joined by the voice of the Dinobot King Grimlock from Transformers Cyberverse the show and Battlegrounds the video game, Ryan Andes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, well, I want to start by asking sort of what drew you to the role or what it meant for you to play this iconic character.
Oh man, I mean, look, I grew up, watching G1. I was born in the '70s, so Transformers was a part of my childhood, and so when I was asked to audition, it was one of those like, is it? It's almost too good to be true kind of things. And it's funny. I didn't audition initially for Grimlock. In fact, the first role I auditioned for was for Prime, which I thought I had in the bag. And then they went, a different direction. But then it turned to Grimlock, and they had this whole different idea. Randolph, the writer and the creator of Cyberverse, he wanted to kind of make Grimlock a bit different than the G1. He gave him that, the bot mode, and then the Dino mode personas, which was kind of like Beast from X-Men vibe, and I appreciated that, and I think I had like a pretty good sense of it. But a lot of what I did for the audition was based on what I remembered growing up and being a fan and loving Grimlock. So I think that was part of the reason why I got the job. You know.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear that you were a fan of G1 and everything. I think the passion there for the brand definitely shows in your performance. You know,
Thanks.
oh, no problem. And you mentioned the two sort of different personalities within the character that really makes this version of Grimlock, stand out. And so, in Dino mode, he's got those classic Grimlock characteristics of the, very raw power and, kind of,
Yeah.
Primal almost. But then he goes into robot
Totally.
mode and he's got that intelligent and calmer tone. So what was kind of your approach to having to bring essentially two different personalities to the same character but make it work?
Yeah. I I will say the easier of the two was Dino Grimlock, and it's mainly because of G1 and oh my God, I'm blank.
Greg Berger, is that right?
Greg Berger,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Greg Berger did such an amazing job, and his voice was so much in my ears and in my head when I was reading those lines. So that part was easy. It was rough on the voice, but it's kind of like what I was born to do. The the robot version of Grimlock was very different, and I actually felt I felt a little less connected to him at first, just because I didn't really know how to like what take to try on him. And Randolph actually was the one who helped me find him, because I think his version, the way he envisioned it, was Grimlock kind of being this boisterous, charismatic, almost like a musketeer. And that's what I started focusing on, was like, how do I make Grimlock like sound like a musketeer? And so that's how this became, his voice, a little bit more grand and adventurous, and someone who gets his fellow robots inspired and excited about new adventures, that kind of thing.
That's awesome, man. I loved it. I mean, my actual first exposure to the Cyberverse world was through playing the video game Battlegrounds, and so
Oh, right.
yeah, so I actually was surprised when I heard the robot mode voice at first. I was like, oh, what's this? This is a whole different take on Grimlock.
Yeah.
And after that, it made me go back and check out Cyberverse, and now what I'm
Right on.
wondering is what's kind of the differences for you from voicing in a television show versus a video game with the same character? I mean, how different was that?
Well, I should mention too that I also booked and voiced the role of Shockwave on the show, and I believe we did Shockwave on the game. Although
Yes.
no, actually, we did do Shockwave. So I kind of had a mixed bag. The the game, and I've done a few video games, quite a few actually, over the years. The game's a little bit more quippy. It's a bit more action driven. It was directed by someone totally different as well. So, I had my version of the character that I had been doing for months previously, and then the game came along, which was also like there was a span of time between, recording the show and recording the game. So, when time goes by, you sort of, you don't remember the character as well. You kind of have to go back and reintroduce yourself and get back into his bones. But I actually find the video game to be a little bit easier, if only because you're barking orders, you're doing more actions, you are, taking damage or dealing damage, and so it's a lot more fun, and it's also a lot more like, grunting and action oriented, which I actually I enjoy.
Okay, yeah, well, that's definitely that's a cool take on that. I mean, we've interviewed a bunch of sort of video game voice actors here on the channel, and I remember some of the people that were in Monster Hunter were talking about how like they had to voice so many different like noises for various
Totally.
getting hit by different enemies and stuff, and
That's true.
so that's
That
nice
is
that you had
weird.
fun with it.
I will say I had a really great kind of introduction to this aspect of voice acting, and it was when I booked, and nobody knows this because it's so long ago, but I booked a boss creature in World of Warcraft through Blizzard years ago.
Wow.
Years ago. Yeah, it was. I played Anhur, the Sphinx boss in this temple level, and there's like one video somewhere out there that somebody recorded, and you can hear my voice on the game. But the director was great, and I forget her name, but she had this very specific set of directions for creatures taking damage and dealing damage, and it was stuff like, all right, first, you go through the whole range of strikes or injuries, and the injuries would be something like, okay, you're getting thrust with a dagger, okay, and then the next one is you're getting hit with a short sword, and then maybe a mace, and then a spear that goes in and out of you, and then a battle axe. So so you kind of gradually increase the damage as you go, and so it starts off like with a and then it's and then before you know it, you're like, I mean, when the spear, she'd be like, okay, I really want to hear the spear go in and then come out. So you're like, it's like this wild, you're thrashing around in the booth, and you're sweating and you're flailing, and you're just experiencing all of this shit, all feeling firsthand. Sorry about the language, but it is actually a really good time, and I love getting physical with this stuff, and it does make it feel like you're spending an hour at the gym or something.
Well, that's great that at least you're on the other side of the wheel with Battlegrounds, because Grimlock's definitely the one doing the killing, and
Oh yeah,
so
totally. No, it's absolutely the most fun, And look, there is acting involved with that stuff, but it's a little less, I would say, challenging. Like you can kind of, it's more fun to make noises than it is to like have to, really think about the scene and have to understand what you're saying and how you're saying it and who you're saying it to. You can be a little more free with it and a little more broad, which is nice. It's video games, so you can kind of let it loose a bit.
Right, absolutely. Well, kind of a final question for you today. Grimlock he's one of the most iconic Transformers of all time. Really, to me, he's definitely like in the top 3 to 5 like most recognizable Transformers, right up there with Optimus Prime and Megatron.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, we kind of touched on this in the beginning, but what was your approach to be able to play, Grimlock in a way that still honors the original? Because of course, how fans are. They're scared when anything's a little different. But also bringing something new to the character that sort of the new generation of fans could continue to enjoy and keep that character fresh.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, and I think I mentioned this, but if I didn't say it initially, I'd like to say it again. Booking this role was truly like a dream come true. It just fulfilled all of those childhood fantasies of when you're playing with toys and doing the voices, and then being able to actually do the voice. It was just the coolest thing. Like there is always it's funny when you book a thing like this, you don't think about, at least for me, I didn't think about the like onus of the character as much. I was just more excited about the opportunity to do a job in a world that I loved, right? And so I didn't feel as much of the pressure of honoring Grimlock. It was more the excitement of bringing new life to this version of the character. It doesn't mean I would do anything different. I think I am glad of how it turned out. I do think though that the cartoon does have like a lightness to it that I think I would have tried to fight against. As in, I wish I could have given Grimlock a bit more depth. And I think it slowly evolves into that. But yeah, I think really ultimately, and this is true, I think for most voice actors, you really just show up to do what you do best, right? And I knew that that's what they hired me for. That Randolph and the team just appreciated my take, and I didn't really have to worry as much about the previous takes. I could just show up and do what I do best, and that would be enough, right? And that's a hard one sometimes to understand. It takes a while to learn that as an actor, but that I think is why I was able to do this as well as I did it,
Well, you did a great job, man. I love G1. I even have a G1 Grimlock original figure.
Nice.
We all absolutely in the community loved your performance as Grimlock, and it's definitely one of my favorite takes on the character that we've ever had so far. So,
man, that's really really cool to hear, brother. And thank you for saying that. I really do appreciate it.
Of course, we definitely appreciate it, and I think it's gonna live on for sure. I think people are gonna look back on this era and this version of the character and be very happy with it. So,
oh man, well, I can only hope so. And it's great. I love that these kinds of things live on. You don't think about that when you're doing it, but the show has continued to bring new people in, and I just did a convention in Jersey that we did BotCon a couple weeks ago, and it was just so cool. I met so many new fans and parents who love the show who are showing it to their kids now, and I brought toys along, and everybody wanted a toy. It was just it was neat, man. I really appreciated how the show, how the show, the quality of the show has held up, as in it's still bringing people in, and it's still being enjoyed by people now, and I think it will hopefully, like you said, continue to do so as time goes on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today, sir. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we get off the air, like any new projects that you wanted to shout out for people to check out, or anything like that before we head off?
Well, listen, first I want to say thank you for having me. This is a pleasure. I truly enjoyed being here and talking to you, Dawson. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have projects. Most of them I can't talk about.
that figures.
Yeah, I will say I've been doing a lot of voice acting for less for cartoons and more for like audio drama type stuff. And there is something that's coming. They haven't announced the release date, but there's kind of like a new format of audio drama that's happening, that's being produced by some larger studios. And that's probably all I can say about it, but it is worth keeping your ears open for. I think with the strike happening now, it means that a lot of work is kind of suspended. So right now I focus more on doing commercial work, and I just booked a commercial and shot it up in Toronto on camera. So that's been keeping me busy, and I'm grateful for that work. But I am very much looking forward to getting new voice acting projects going. And hopefully once the strike is over, things will be better for all of us, actor folk and producer folk, and all the folk that are involved in the industry who have not been getting their due. And we're really hoping that as a result of the strike, that will happen and that change will come.
Well, absolutely. And fans, we all need to stand with them on that, because the fact of the matter is, any of the projects that we like, from video games to movies to TV to anything, it doesn't exist without the actual talent behind it. It's a lot more than just corporate boardrooms. So.
That's true.
So
That's true.
thank you for thank you for being here today again, Ryan. It really means a lot. And
Man, thank you.
yeah, and until next time, we're going to be rolling out, everybody.